Welcome to my March reading wrap-up. I just got off the phone with my mother-in-law after telling her about my booktube channel for the first time, and she asked me how to pronounce bestiality so she could relay to me that she read a book about bestiality that she loved in high school. So that was her way, I think, of giving me the thumbs up for my channel. Hello, welcome. My name is Leah. This is my channel, Dirty Little Literate, where I like to talk about books that are uncomfortable, whether they're disgusting, disturbing, gross, weird, whatever. And today I am going to be talking about the books that I read in March. And I read 5 1/7 books this month. And the first that I'm going to be talking about is Bunny by Mona Awad. Now, everyone knows Bunny. Everyone's heard of Bunny. It's a great book. It's a fun book. It's not the best book that's ever been written, but it is weird, certainly. It's not over the top, insanely disturbing, but it's definitely bizarre. There's a component of magical realism sprinkled all throughout. I had one person comment on the video that I made about Bunny, specifically saying it gives the vibe of The Heathers, which is a movie I haven't seen, but if you have, then The Heathers. I felt like it was sort of like Clueless vibes. It's about a group of girls in a graduate writing program, and we have our main character, Samantha, versus these 4 girls known as the Bunnies, who always call each other Bunny and, oh my god, I love you, Bunny, you're so cute, Bunny, blah, blah, blah. And initially, Samantha hates everything about them, but slowly but surely she gets wrapped up and enticed into their lives and the prospect of being friends with them. And she sort of becomes a bunny herself and loses her sense of her identity. But there's something going on behind the scenes, something dark, something disturbing. A lot of people mention cults in reference with this book. And I think the level of cliquishness in this girl gang does kind of give off that energy. But there's something else going on that's much more in that magical realism vein than what you would get with a typical cult. And these bunnies are doing some weird experiments in the attic of one of the mansions. All the bunnies are very rich, they're very posh, they're very polished, and they have a little kind of science project they're working on that is pretty violent, to be honest. Pretty aggressive, pretty weird, bizarre, all of the things, and I don't want to spoil it for you. If you want it to be spoiled, you can go watch my other video, but otherwise, just know it's sort of like Valley Girl energy with magical realism, violent experiments, also, you know, sort of a need for male validation sprinkled throughout. The ending definitely does come with a big plot twist, but you're never going to fully get answers explaining the magical realism component and why that exists within this universe. All in all, it's a fun book. It definitely has like some comedic value. So if you like disturbing books but would like one that also is a bit more in the lighthearted vein as well, I would say go with this one. The next book I read is The Laws of the Skies by Gregoire, Courtois, I think is how you say his name. It's a French book that was translated into English. It is a super quick read. I read it in under a day. It's very, very violent. It is about a group of 6-year-olds who go on a camping trip with a teacher and 2 parent volunteers, and this is like their first night away from home, and there is someone amongst the group who is quite violent, and slowly but surely everyone in this book starts dying. Some are killed off, some die for other reasons. I'm not spoiling anything. This is all on the back of the book. It's very dark and bleak. There is no happy ending. This is one that you have to be okay with, like a bunch of children dying, but it is way more of a page turner than I would have thought it would be, because you know everything that's going to happen, and yet you are so curious to find out the ways in which it's going to happen, even if you know the end result. And I really liked this one. It's nothing like earth-shattering, but the way it's told is also quite interesting. You're shifting perspectives from one character to the next, sometimes within a paragraph, sometimes even within a sentence, and he doesn't necessarily try to hit you over the head with whose perspective you are now in. So sometimes I wouldn't say it's like mental gymnastics necessarily, but it's just kind of trying to keep you sharp in terms of like what's going on with who, and it's kind of just a unique way of writing. And I felt like this was really well written for a book that is so violent. It didn't feel like it was like only relying on violence. It was very much like I don't know, there's something about it, the suspense of it, and I think the author really wanted you to feel what everyone in the book was feeling. I think he did a really good job of that, and I think, you know, it being 6-year-olds, it's definitely an extra gut punch. This book is not for everyone. Very violent, disturbing, so I quite liked it. And if you want one that's just a real quick rainy day read, go ahead and do that. The next book on the list is Homesick for Another World by Ottessa Moshfegh. I have a video about this one as well. Safe to say, if it's on my monthly reading wrap up and it's disturbing, I very likely have made a video on it. Now, this one was recommended to me by a subscriber, and this is actually an anthology of short stories, and they are disturbing, but not like overly violent, not over the top. I think it's definitely a more palatable one for a lot of people. And the characters in each short story, it's all very bleak. They're unpleasant characters. Most of them are not very likable. We have a couple perverts. We have a couple stalkers. We have a couple people who just have like depressing lives, not in like a sad boohoo way, but just in a like I just don't really want to live your life, and you don't want to hang out with these people. I thought this one was a fun one to read for sure, but I will say short stories are not super climactic. It's not like they have these jaw-dropping endings. The tone throughout the story is generally the tone at the end of the story. So there's not a whole lot of like surprise moments. It's more just the journey through these characters' unpleasant lives, and it's still fascinating and it's still a great read. It's just there's not a lot of like mic drop moments. I know Ottessa Moshfegh writes a lot of weird, disturbing, bizarre books, and this is the only one I've read, but I'm definitely gonna hop on board and read more after having read this one. The next book on my list is Chlorine by Jade, and this book is wild. This one definitely has a lot of body horror to it, and it was very unique. I've never read another book that made me feel quite like this one made me feel. Now, this is about a teenage girl named Ren, who is a competitive swimmer, and her swimming career is very arduous and painful, and she really pushes herself, her mind, her body to its limits, beyond its limits, as do the other members of her swim team, and it really takes over her world. Now, she is dealing with some mental health issues, and honestly, I'm not sure if some of it has to do with like a concussion that she develops at one point, but she believes that she is a mermaid, and not just because she likes swimming, and not in like a cutesy mermaid way. I guess she's familiar with a lot of mermaid lore in which mermaids are actually quite violent, and she believes she's undergoing this transformation from a human girl to a mermaid, and she thinks everyone is going to be absolutely astounded by her transition, and she is willing to go to some great lengths to transform her body so that it resembles a mermaid. And the way this story is told, it's supposed to be like present day, her as like a young adult, maybe like 18 or something, and she is recalling the previous years and, you know, her transformation into where she's at now. And we understand kind of early on that she's not really in communication with her family and friends now that she is apparently off living a mermaid life. And her friend Kathy is also writing letters to her throughout the story because she really misses her now that she's off living her mermaid life. And it's very clear that there's a lot of, you know, romantic energy between her and her best friend Kathy, and, you know, Kathy willing to totally be like, yeah, I totally believe you're a mermaid. And the body horror piece of it, you know, it's just not good. not gonna be for everyone. It's pretty wild, and the character herself, the way her mind works, she just approaches interactions, and just like her understanding of the world is just kind of very different. So I really liked this one. I thought this was a great book. It's nothing earth-shattering again, but like it's a worthwhile read. It's a good one if you like weird books, for sure. All right, the next book on the list is This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno. And I actually just finished this one today. This is a very quick read, and I have so much to say about this book, so I definitely will make a video on it. The way that this book is sold, and even like in the book jacket, what you think it's going to be about is this young man whose wife just died unexpectedly. That's like in the book jacket, like right off the bat, she dies. That's not a spoiler. And it's about his grieving process. But there seems to be the suggestion that perhaps his Alexa equivalent, so he has this like technology, it's called an Ottessa, so it's not an Alexa, but it pretty much does all the things an Alexa does. I mean, it's more advanced, but basically, we're supposed to believe that perhaps there's some sort of connection between his wife's death and this Alexa, or that he's like going crazy and he's, having delusions connected to this Alexa, or he's being haunted by an Alexa. Basically, the vibe is that, this book is all about this like weird Alexa thing. And that is not the case. The Alexa piece of it is just one of the initial factors that lets you know that something weird is going on. But there are so many weird things that go on throughout this book, and most of them are not related to the Alexa. So don't be thinking it's some sort of like serial killer Alexa conspiracy. I think that this author wrote really beautifully about grief. It was really powerful. It's very emotional. It's very heavy. You really feel for this character and what he's going through. He decides to isolate himself after her death, and I don't even know if I want to call it like magical realism. I know a lot of people were saying this is like grief horror, which like, sure, I do think is like a valid way to describe it. There definitely is a feeling of spookiness throughout this book. There are just so many strange events unfolding, and they can't even really be summarized in any one specific way. Like, yes, there are weird things that are happening with his Alexa. One of those things that kind of make you think it's related to that is the fact that like she decided not to have the alarm go off on the day that his wife died, and so she was running late, and so like it's supposedly like, if it hadn't been for her not doing the alarm, she'd still be alive. Like, that's kind of the like one of the ties with the Alexa. To just give you an idea of some of the weird things that are happening, honestly, some interactions that he has, like as you're first reading them, you might even think that they're perhaps like hallucinations. It's unclear if perhaps he's having some sort of mental break. He moves out to a cabin in Colorado in this like remote area where no one else lives, and he sees this weird rock formation in the forest that it looks like a wall. And it doesn't look like it would be naturally formed. It looks like it almost could be man-made. And like at another point in the book, it's no longer in that spot, and now it's like way closer to his house. He will have books that are like coming off the shelves, and he's seeing things in the book that like seem addressed to him. And it's unclear, is like his dead wife trying to communicate with him? Is it the mental break? Is there something else going on? And then there are all these sort of unexplained things that are happening that other characters are kind of starting to be able to validate that they are seeing these weird things as well. So you're not sure what's really happening, what isn't happening. I always use this term with like certain books where you're just kind of like confused about what is going on, but like a fever dream. I've heard people say like, yeah, the whole book is like a fever dream. This one is definitely not one that is going to give you concrete answers. There are some people who are pretty frustrated with like the last few pages in particular, just because, I heard people say that they felt like it was such a promising book, and then at the end it almost felt like the author maybe like gave up a little and didn't want to have to kind of fully address everything or even, kind of give you some sort of like big takeaway. And I will say, I didn't like love the ending, and it was kind of confusing because it's not even like one of those ones where it's like, oh, it could either be this or this. It's kind of just like very like ambiguous and just like you don't even really know what you're left with. But I would still really, really recommend this book because the whole thing as you're reading it, it feels powerful. And the focus on grief, it feels like it's really meant to provide you with this experience. And it's not like a book that's just meant to shock you or just be so overly violent or gory or nothing like that. It's just like a powerful book, I feel. So I would recommend it, but it wasn't necessarily what I was expecting with the whole Alexa thing that you get hit over the head with every time someone talks about it. The next book that I'm talking about is the one that I am considering as like 1/7 read. I've read like over 100 pages. There's almost 700 pages, I think, something absurd like that. And I am not enjoying this book, and yet I don't feel that I'm allowed to not finish it because I need to know, I need to understand, I need there to be something different that happens. Oh God, I'm so frustrated with this book. This is House of Leaves. You can see my ring light. Hey? House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski, and this book is so fucking annoying. This book is so annoying. So like, I just want to show you, okay, some of these pages don't have much on them, which I'm totally down for because I want to be done with this book. But like, okay, I'm on this page right now, and I don't know if you can tell, but that part is upside down. And if you flip it right side up, it's just names of people. It's just, the whole thing is names of people. You can see there's like these like 2 blue boxes, and they will like say the same thing, but one of them is written as like a mirror image. So you have to like take a picture with your phone and flip it to make sure like, okay, I'm not missing anything, right? And no, it's not even interesting when you read it like the right way the first time. Literally, it's describing like HVAC systems in those boxes. Okay, so let me tell you what the book is supposed to be about. It is about a man and his family who discover that the house that they just moved into, when measuring one of the rooms, the house on the inside, the dimensions are just like a hair larger than the dimensions of the outside of the house, which is impossible, right? And so he starts looping in other people, like people who are, familiar with like building infrastructure and what have you, trying to figure out what the hell is going on here. So one day the family actually finds that there is a door in their house that wasn't there before. And behind that door is a hallway that leads to other doors that lead to other hallways. And there's really nothing in any of these hallways or behind any of these doors that's actually interesting, but it seems like it's never ending. So it becomes very clear that this isn't just a matter of like half an inch off. This is like a whole fucking world of hallways and doors that are behind this one door. And the man's wife doesn't really want him exploring because she's afraid, because, once the rules of reality have been breached, like, you don't know what could happen, and she doesn't want anything bad to happen to him. And so he like hires this team to go exploring. And the thing is, as we're reading this book, this is not from this family's perspective. The book is talking about these videos that this man filmed about like this exploration and what he was finding in his house. So the book is like someone's manuscript writing about these videos, and apparently these videos became notorious because of what happened. And we're like, okay, what happens? Like, we know something was fucked up with the house, but like apparently some horrible events unfolded, but I don't quite know what yet. Like, I get the vibe that it's like a violent, like maybe he murdered his family kind of thing. I'm not sure. But the guy who wrote the manuscript is also dead. The person who's publishing this manuscript is like somebody else who knew the guy who was writing the manuscript. Not well, he like found him and he was dead in his house. And now this guy is kind of going crazy. So it seems like everybody who like learns about this house, like they're kind of going crazy, and maybe they die. I don't know. There's clearly something weird at play, and you're just not really understanding what it is. But the reason it's so frustrating, I mean, the weird format stuff, whatever, I can get over that. But like, it will talk about like architecture or an HVAC system or like philosophy or Greek mythology, like all these things that the person who wrote the manuscript was somehow trying to find a way to connect to this house situation that feels like it is reaching so far. It's so irrelevant. Like, who cares? Like, so for example, like if they're talking about like how voices would echo in these hallways, he will go into the longest spiel about echoing and like the science behind it. I don't care about the science behind echoing, and I don't need it described to me for like 10 minutes straight. And it seems like he does that about literally every concept, that it just doesn't feel like it adds anything to the story at all. You're also constantly having to look at the like little citations throughout the manuscript. So like you see the number, you go to the bottom of the page, and it's just like the name of an article. But with a book like this, when it feels like the format is so intentional, I keep feeling like, okay, I don't want to not read the, you know, citations or whatever, because what if I miss something and there's like hidden clues or something? And so I kept thinking that something was going to be like clues that you had to figure out. Like, for example, every time the word house is mentioned, it's written in blue. And so at first I was thinking, oh, maybe they'll have different words in blue, and then you like string them all together, something like that. And from what I can tell so far, there's no like clues or anything cool or fun, or like the format of it feels like it's just for the sake of like, oh wow, I guess this feels really realistic because it's really boring. I am just pulling my teeth out trying to read this book, but I feel like there has to be something to it. There's gonna be something that gets me at some point, right? I hope. I don't know. Because to read a book this long, it's one thing to read a book that long when it's like, you know, a book that I love, but when I fucking hate it, I just can't give up. I've read too many citations to give up now. Sometimes I'm wondering, like, am I just, like, dumb? Like, do smart people love this book? Like, are more people interested in HVAC systems or what have you? I don't get it. I don't get the intention behind this book. And I thought that, like, all the formatting and it being told from different perspectives, I thought that was going to be like cool additions and like things that really added to the story. And so far, I'm just so frustrated. So I am not going to be able to read this book alone. I'm having to balance this out with other books so that I can like be enjoying reading. I'm not sure if I will do a video on this book. I might do a video on this book when I'm done, just to like bitch at you because I'm angry and I don't want to be alone. But also, do I want to have to spend more time on it than I've already spent, that I'm going to spend? I don't know. So I would never suggest to read it in a way where I think you would like it, but I will suggest to read it in like are you getting something out of this that I'm not getting? And if so, tell me what it is. But yeah, fuck this book, which I never say that, you know, like almost every book I talk about on here, I might be like, yeah, I didn't love it. But most of the time I'm like, oh yeah, I really like this book. So for me to be really angry at it, I think is telling. Thank you so much for joining me. That's my March reading wrap up. I will see you next time. Bye.